Hello, it is Dennis here with Real Estate Investor Roundtable. We're back for another great show today with industry experts, guests, Abraham Gray and Chris Moore. As most of you who watches this show, Real Estate Investor with, with Roundtable is where I talk about creative opportunities, creative deals when it relates to real estate. Well, today we're going to talk about creative, but in a different niche. And I really want to expand just the creative aspect of real estate, whether it's commercial or single, and talk about acquiring businesses utilizing creative strategy. There's a lot of similarities that occur between acquiring businesses and real estate, and there's a lot of differences. In my opinion, I wanted to bring these two experts on because, and I will ask them as one of the questions, but in my opinion, it's one of the very untapped things in the industry where you don't have that heavy of a competition. With that said, Abraham Gray and Chris Moore, welcome. Can each of you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the world of business acquisition?
Chris, you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us on here to begin with. It's an honor. Business acquisitions for me, I was doing it and doing what we call deals before I even really knew what it was called. So I started in doing deals in something called consulting for equity, where I would end up partnering with existing businesses to take them to the next level. But instead of working for them as an employer, as a contractor, I would become their partner. So not only am I building their wealth, I'm also building something that I have equity and potential upside in as well. And then from there, over the years, I ended up meeting my business partner and Dealmaker Wealth Society, Carl Allen, who's the #1 world's best business buying coach. And from there, we've been scaling our coaching and mentorship programs at Dealmaker, and it's been going fantastic. And now I'm not just doing acquisitions with consulting for equity. We're actually using a lot of leverage buyouts, a lot of OPM strategies like you do in real estate, as well as buying a lot of larger businesses. And we're doing roll-ups, which we can talk about later. But that's me.
Yeah, so I started my first business back when I was 15. And just from there, just kept getting into other businesses. Then I started buying other competitors out. And I realized how profitable it was to buy other people out, and how you can grow your business, so fast, and how you could leverage other people's money and get a lot of sort of finance and not have to use as much of your money. So, I just fell in love with it. And then about 6 years ago, I found out about Carl Allen. I actually joined his program when he first started it, and we became friends. And now we do stuff together, and that's how this whole Dealmaker weekend thing really started. Just I invited Carl to be a guest speaker at one of my events. Carl and Chris invited me to be a speaker at one of their events, and we just hit it off.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Dealmaker event that's going to be happening in Jersey for 3 days from June 23rd to June 25th. And if you stick to the end, I promise you it's going to be worth your while, because these guys are not only going to deliver amazing value today, but there will be a special present if you stay to the end for everybody who is watching this. So let me ask this question. I mentioned in my introduction that in creative real estate, especially in the Northeast, it's very competitive. There is not as much creative opportunities versus potentially other traditional real estate investment opportunities. And I'm talking about Northeast area predominantly, which is New York, New Jersey, PA, and Delaware. Would you say that when it comes to businesses, that is a much more, and I'm not trying to say that somebody who's in real estate and they're struggling and jump into a business, but would you say that it is potentially less competitive because a lot of people still don't know this niche and to the potential what you can get out of it?
So I'll answer that. So yeah, it's definitely a lot less competitive because in real estate, I've been doing real estate for over 25 years as well. And over the last few years, real estate's been crazy hot, and literally for every single house that's out there, there's 100 people trying to buy that house or more. With business, it's the opposite. For every 100 businesses, maybe there's one person trying to buy it. So you're not really competing with a whole lot of people. So I would say it's definitely way less competitive. And the reason why is people just don't even know you can buy businesses. A lot of people that have businesses don't even know you can sell them. It's crazy. So it's definitely way less competitive.
Yeah, and I think.
I'm go ahead.
No, you go ahead, sir.
What I was going to say is that is definitely evolving, because I actually have EXP now. There's actually a business brokerage, but I want to definitely go back to Chris. But there's now a business brokerage where all they do is specialize buying business to business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I can touch on, you asked about specifically in that Northeast sector of the United States, right? Part of that is that has a really strong and a high population density. And where there are more people and higher density populations, there's more businesses as well. And I think you have ample opportunities in that area. And there's a lot of people who are growing older, getting to that retirement age, that want to move to Florida. They want to move to warmer climates. So a lot of what we do in business acquisition, especially working with leverage buyouts and seller financing, creative financing, is going after that aging population. So I think right up there where you all are and where a lot of your viewers and listeners are is just prime. And there's definitely a lot more businesses for sale than there are buyers to buy them.
Got it. So I see a lot of businesses essentially where we go on YouTube and so forth. There is, Cody Sanchez is somebody who's been becoming very popular recently. And she's talking about things like laundromats, right? And now everybody's sort of going after laundromats. And I heard also car washes, right? They're very lucrative businesses to essentially acquire. And everybody's sort of going in that path. And what is your recommendation as far as what is a profitable business that is essentially very few people are looking into, but it's something that if you can find it, it would knock off the socks of potentially comparing it to real estate cash flow and will be not as difficult to operate?
Yeah. So as far as laundromats and car washes go, those became very, very popular over the last year and a half because of Cody. But literally, those aren't the best types of businesses to buy for cash flow, just because they don't make that much money. I know Cody's video she made; it was a great video, and the techniques she used was great. And we go through those same techniques, but in bigger companies. But her business that she bought was making $60,000 a year. We don't even look at businesses for the most part that are making less than $150,000 a year. So as far as you talking about like these non-sexy businesses where people come by, that's why people buy laundromats and car washes and stuff. The problem with car washes and laundromats now is that because it became so popular, even though they're not sexy, everyone's trying to get those, like you just said. So the whole reason why it was worth getting those is like it doesn't even work anymore because now everyone's trying to get those. Like literally every one of my friends that watches YouTube or social media, oh, aren't you going to buy a laundromat? So everyone's talking about laundromats. So it's it could be okay, but it's definitely not where you could build a lot of wealth. And you'd have to have a whole lot of them. And then maybe if you bought like a chain of like a dozen or plus laundromats, then maybe it can work. But just owning one isn't really going to do a whole lot. The businesses that we buy, you could buy one and be set for life, but you could also buy many of them and make crazy money.
Yeah, and if I could piggyback off that, Cody talks about buying boring businesses, which to me, I like that concept because they're consistent and they're not fly by night and they're going to be something that's going to stick around for a long time. But like what Abraham said, the whole focus of what we do really at Dealmaker Weekend and what we teach there is more around buying businesses in the sweet spot. When I say sweet spot, I mean revenue between 1 and 10 million. And let me tell you why specifically. Think about you and everyone else that you have in your circle of influence. We're all investors, right? Investors want to invest so their resources can make them money rather than their time. So when you buy a business less than $1 million in revenue, often you're buying a job from the seller. You're buying the job that they're doing in their roles, compared to when you get businesses that are larger, between that 1 and 10 million, you're buying businesses that have middle management layers in place, businesses where the owner can step away, the business continues to run, right? You're not going to find very many of those type of like laundromat, car wash businesses that are going to be in the higher echelon. Some of them, they're like magic tunnel car washes and they're pumping through hundreds of cars a day and all that, maybe, but those are also very, very expensive. You know, laundromats and real estate go together most of the time. And then also car washes and real estate go together. So using a lot of the creative financing strategies you could use to buy businesses with no money down, it gets a little bit more convoluted when real estate's involved. And sometimes that's not the real estate you want to own. Like Abraham owns real estate in a lot of the businesses he owns, but he also buys larger properties where he can also have them cash flow by other tenants. So I think we focus on stuff a little bit different. You know, that larger business that can really feed someone's cash flow and their needs can get them a lot further than something like a car wash. Other thing is, Abraham, I don't know about you, but in a lot of the businesses that we're doing, we try to stay away from businesses that really only deal with the kind of the lowest echelon of society. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but in general, like having a laundromat, a lot of your customers are going to be on the lower level of the socioeconomic table compared to a lot of other businesses where you can have more high ticket, high profit type things where you can make a lot more money with fewer transactions. Those are the type of businesses we like.
You like surges of income.
Surges of income. Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
No, but
so if somebody that watches this and they're like, oh, okay, fine, I want to go buy a business in real estate, and I like to compare it to real estate a lot of times because there's definitely similarities. We work with people such as wholesalers, and essentially wholesalers are people that are marketing, spending the time and going and finding a property, putting on the contract, and then selling the rights. Is there wholesalers inside the business world?
yeah, there actually is. There's you just came up with a whole new course on that actually, because that's been a really popular thing lately. So Chris could talk about that more because he actually teaches in depth about that, him with Carl.
Yeah, 100%. So the idea of every opportunity, every seller conversation you have could potentially become a deal. If not for you, then for somebody, right? So wholesaling fits in really well where you can imagine a wholesaler in real estate has a list of investors that have specific buy boxes, and they have a really easy time finding someone to take on this property once they get it under contract. The same thing can be true in business acquisition, right? You have a group of buyers or investors who are looking to acquire businesses. You can go out and wholesale those deals and make those paper flip money. There's also ways, interestingly enough, in business acquisitions where you can take your success fee rather than cash. You can do it as part equity in the company, in the business, which some people do that.
Yeah, I've had a few friends of mine that did real estate, big into real estate, and they came to like one of my masterminds over 3 years ago now, and they now basically instead of wholesaling real estate, they're wholesaling businesses, and you know when you wholesale a business, you're making $100,000+ a lot of times per transaction, depending on how big the deal is. Within real estate, you know you're making 10, 20,000, which is still great. But like you could potentially make hundreds of thousands on one transaction, a lot easier on a wholesaling business than on real estate. And like Chris said, you could also
acquiring a business, does that usually take, you know, when we look at acquiring a multifamily, it sometimes could take up to 6 months to a year, especially if you're doing something like a syndication where you have to raise capital. Where traditionally wholesaling, you can technically wholesale something and be, completely transferred of property within, as little as 2 weeks up to 30 days. What's the shortest time that you've seen that a business was acquired and potentially resold, or, if that's not an option, just acquired?
In theory, you could close on a business the same day that you work the deal. If it's a 100% like owner finance or mostly owner finance, you're putting in a little bit of money. You just drop a simple contract. You don't need to do like title searches and all this other stuff, you could close literally the same day or next day. I actually have bought a few like owner finance deals, we call annuity deals, where you're not really coming up with any money up front. And I've had a lot of these deals close within a week or 2 weeks. But if you have to get financing, go to the SBA, they're typically going to take a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, for me,
So-
you want me to say something? Sorry. For me, I was going to say there's also the opportunity to wholesale deals that are just seller financing, which can be much quicker flips, right? Where you don't have to go through all the red tape of the bank loans and the deep closing process. And that allows you to go a lot faster. So if you're doing wholesaling of business deals and you're finding mostly distressed sellers of good businesses that are interested in taking seller financing deals, then that could be a lot faster.
Yeah. The more, it's just like real estate, the more motivated, the stress motivated, almost the same thing, but the more motivated the sellers are, the easier it is to do a deal. So you don't have to wait for a closing attorney and title company and all that stuff to do a business deal. Literally, you can do it yourself, or you could have your, someone that does it like within a day. Just drop the contract and everyone can sign it.
Yep.
I have a couple deals I just did that I'm going to talk about at the event that I actually did with other people that came to other events that we partners on. Chris, you don't even know yet, but there's a couple deals that I'm closing on that came about that we're closing on literally super fast. So one deal is one that I just got like last week, and we're going to close on it probably like the day I come back from New York. Me and this guy that he's going to be at the event, and that's a 2 week from start to finish, a 2 week close, and it's to put it in perspective, it's a business that does a few $1 million a year in sales. It's a service company. It's a tree company. They cut trees and remove trees that people want, and they trim the branches and stuff like that. But it's a tree company. They climb trees, they cut big trees, do all that, clear land. So yeah, it's a really good company. How did this one come about? Well, this is a very typical way that someone can get a deal. This is the person that I've been, working with, teaching them how to do this stuff. And they actually work for a tree company, and they've worked there since high school. And, it's been like 7 years. And they're like, you know what? The owner of my company is like 76 years old. Their kids don't want it. This is something I'd really love to take on. Like, I love this business. Do you think I should go talk to him and see if he wants to sell? I was like, of course. Like, he's not going to trust anybody more than you. You've been there forever. And we ended up working a deal where him, one of the other main guys that works there, and me, the three of us are going to buy this company together from the seller. And we're basically going to be paying which is crazy. We're going to be paying the amount of money that we're making. We're going to pay him like a portion of that toward his payment for like 7 years, and then we're going to own the company. But it cash flows really well. It's service businesses are one of my favorite, home services or anything. So this is like a service business, but like those are great business. Those are the best business to target, I think.
I agree.
So money, right? A lot of times when people are trying to acquire, money is always a challenge. Sometimes, especially if they're new, beginner, they don't have the good concept of other people money. Abraham, you just mentioned that I believe this deal that you're talking about is either very little out of pocket or potentially no money out of pocket. But when it comes to getting into this model, this niche, can somebody truly acquire a business, a cash flowing business that is over 150,000 cash flow without putting any of their own money?
Chris is better. I could speak to it. I'd rather Chris speak to it because he has so many students in his program that have done this that he just has way more that he could talk about.
Sure. It's such an interesting concept of the idea of none of your own money. It's hard for people to wrap their head around it sometimes, but one thing you got to remember is the seller is still getting money. It doesn't have to come from your pocket. That's the key, right? So there's ways to do bank financing for a certain percentage, like an SBA loan. Maybe 80% of that's covered. And then the last 20% is either a mix up of seller financing notes and maybe private investment funds from somebody else, like an angel investor or hard money lender, or somebody else putting money in the deal for equity. But that required no money out of your pocket. There's even ways to overfund deals so you get a check back at closing. right? So the idea of not using your own money doesn't mean that there's no money being exchanged. So that's one thing to just wrap your head around. Number two is, yeah, there's also a lot of times where there's no bank financing, no outside investment, period. But instead, almost like a subject to type environment, you're taking so much liability off the seller's plate. You're actually getting a business that has cash flow right out of the gate, and you're just exchanging, taking over the liabilities for the seller. And that could be some sort of loan payment or something that's lingering from COVID, or it can be as simple as taking over on the commercial lease. Imagine the lease payment is just a huge burden. The idea of re-signing a 3 to 5 year lease for the seller scares them to death because they don't know what's going to happen with the economy. Imagine taking that on sub 2, where you're taking on their lease liability, and you get to run the business and have that run and take the cash flow as well and let them retire quickly with dignity. I mean, that happens all the time. In those scenarios, there's no money out of pocket if you can negotiate it correctly.
So all these events that we do, we literally have sometimes 10 people that have done deals over the last 6 months, 12 months, that have done these exact types of deals, buying these deals with no money. And they'll actually sit on the panel and just talk about it and say how they found the deal, how they negotiated the deal. And every single one of them does it a little bit differently. So there's so many ways to do it. And people have done it in every industry, every dollar amount. It's definitely happens all the time. The reason why I was gonna say, the reason why I know that so many of Chris and Carl's students do it is because one of the companies I bought after I bought Carl's program 6 years ago was a trophy company, and I bought it with none of my own money, and it was a $1.2 million deal, and I didn't use any of my money. And the reason why I bring that up is because every single time somebody does a deal in his program, he gives them like a big cool crystal trophy, and we are shipping the shit out of trophies all the time. So I know he has plenty of people doing deals all the time, just because I know how many I'm shipping. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go. He's showing his awards. Very nice.
Yeah, I got several of them.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I just bought 2 weeks ago. I bought 2 weeks ago a business for $100,000 that we used none of my money, and it's a good profitable business. Chris bought a bowling alley, like a nice big huge bowling alley with the same type of deal. So there's any type of business you could do it.
So let me ask this question. Obviously, businesses require employees, and in today's economical standpoint, there's a very low unemployment, especially in what we classify as more service-oriented jobs. Whenever businesses are acquired, do you sometimes, or do you face struggles with maintaining personnel? And if you do, what ways do you entice them to stay on? Because in a lot of cases, my understanding is that you don't provide medical insurance for small businesses.
Yeah.
If they're under 10 people.
So there's a few criteria that are really important when you buy a business. One, obviously, that it's profitable in that 6-figure range. But another one is that they come with a management team in place. And that's one of the reasons why we look for those type of businesses. They have a management team in place. So we make sure that the management team's there and that they want to stay. We basically come in and don't do anything that's going to be worse than they had it before. We come in, we're like, look, we're going to pay you the same we pay you before, or sometimes we give them different bonuses to show them how much we appreciate them, and we want them to stay. We're buying existing businesses because they have these employees, because they have these customers, because they have all the suppliers and vendors and all these different things. So we don't want to change anything right away. So a lot of the deals that I do, I make it part of the deal that their top people pretty much have to stay. If they don't, something's going to happen. But I haven't had a problem. I basically ask the sellers, look, is there any reason why these people are going to leave? And they'll tell me, and if I'll tell them, look, if you're lying to me, you're going to get very much, deducted a lot of your money or something. So I've never had an issue like that, but you put all that in the contract. But have we had other people leave? Yeah, sometimes people will leave, but it's never really the high level people that matter. So it works out really well. We take really good care of them, and we make sure that we incentivize them to where they want to stay and they can grow with us.
Yep.
Chris,
You want me to touch on that
do you
too?
have any feedback on this question?
Oh yeah, I have
please.
hundreds of employees at any given time throughout my businesses, and I think when you buy a business, there's definitely the allure for a lot of people is when the business has the ability to run itself, right? So when you're buying a business that runs itself, so you can be an owner investor, having those people in play that are going to stay along for the long haul is really important. So the other thing we look for is businesses that aren't as focused and reliant on certain people, but instead their processes, right? So a lot of times a business that's really built well has great processes, great training. So if someone leaves who's a key player, it's not going to tank the business. So that's another thing you look at during your due diligence period. If you read a book called Built to Sell, it really talks about this towards the last couple of chapters where there's ways as a seller of a business, and you can even guide a seller as a buyer through this process of ways of adding incentives for people to stay past the acquisition. There's ways to take your most key players, valuable players, put them on a structure. After a year after the acquisition, they get $10,000. After the 2 years after the acquisition, they get another $10,000, which makes them want to stay. And that's a big part of the process. But having that knowledge and being able to coach the seller on that, if that's something you and the seller are concerned about, is part of the process. But to me, I think it depends on the business. Some of our businesses are smaller and we do offer health insurance, right? And I think nowadays to recruit and retain good talent, they have certain things that they're looking for on these non-taxable benefits. So I think it depends on the company, depends on the company size, depends on the nature of the business. But to recruit and retain high value employees, often they're going to want to have health insurance. You know, the health insurance that you can go tap into on the quote unquote exchange isn't always what it's cracked up to be. So anytime you can offer something like that, it definitely helps. And that's, once again, larger businesses over 1 to 10 million in revenue are more likely to have that in place rather than buying that little car wash or that laundromat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. So you mentioned about acquiring businesses and that you have a collaboration with the owner, the staff. Can you talk a little bit more about some of your strategies? And a lot of this will be discussed at the Dealmaker event. But what do you do to employ to build trust and ensure mutual alignment across the whole business that you're acquiring?
So when I buy a business, after I buy it, I have the previous owner introduce me to all the top level employees that they have. And I go there and I explain my vision. I explain that, I'm just trying to make their lives better, trying to grow the company. And then what I do is, which is really important, is I go in and I ask everyone, look, what would you do if this was your company? Give me like the top 10 things you would do, or top 10 things you'd get rid of, or what changed. And I have everybody do that. And, sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I don't, but I always pick a few things from everybody and I implement them. And when they see that you implement them, they think that, they know that you're buying into them and that you respect them. And that goes a long way to have them trust you. So I always try to do a few things that they suggest, whether, even if it's like, a big deal or not a big deal, just to show them that I'm on their side and we're going to grow together. And I'm going to value their opinions.
It's brilliant.
Anything from you, Chris?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with keeping in mind that a lot of sellers are scared to sell their business. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way, but there's a lot of people who are kind of scared to put a for sale sign up in their yard. Different from real estate. Inside of a business, when you put your business for sale, you can confuse your employees, confuse your customers. People can think you're going out of business. Your employees may think they're losing their job. They may think that you're financially distressed. So it's a very intimate conversation. It's a very intimate process. So what Abraham was touching on is kind of post-acquisition. I think that's a very delicate process, and the way that he just articulated it's brilliant, where he's really having them feel like he's their advocate and they are part of the solution, which is brilliant. The only thing that we do, maybe not different, but as well, additional to that, is we like to really make sure that we have the really key players in the business maybe have some equity or some profit share in the business when we take over. And that allows your key players to have a little bit of accountability and make sure they show up every day so you don't have to, as well as makes them feel like they're part owner of the business, and they'll fight for you a lot more. And that's where you're really going to be able to sleep at night. Because when you buy a business, at the end of the day, if shit hits the fan and no one shows up to work, you got to go in and do it. So for me, I don't want to have that moment where I have to get up and drive a couple hours or fly somewhere to this business I own because no one showed up. So I like to take these top layer management people who are key to the business, who have the right culture and the right experience, and make them a partner. And I think Abraham does that a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, some businesses, it makes no sense to do it, but some businesses it's crazy not to do it. So like, you have to figure out the business and who the employees are and how valuable they are. But once you make someone a partner, they're, like Chris said, I mean, they're going to do whatever they need to do for the most part if they're a good partner. So it's very important. But yeah, I have a lot of people that work for me that are now like, you know, partners with me in a lot of these businesses that they run and operate.
That's cool, because then you basically all working towards a common goal, and they feel invested. And I mean, there's a lot of shows essentially that are, well, actually there's a couple of shows. One specifically that I watched was Undercover Billionaire with Glenn Stearns, and I watched the first season, and it just shows how people come together. Where sometimes I wonder if it's just the cameras, but it's just like, you know, a mindset thing, and then you really start to think about it. Like, people truly want to be part of something, and they want to be putting stuff together for their local community. So in that case, it was improving their local community and working together. My other question that I have for both of you is, what misconceptions or misunderstanding people that are watching this have about buying businesses, whether it's using creative financing or, you know, I'm sure people watching this, they probably never even thought about this. So I know this is not going to be an earth-shattering Zoom, but I think it's going to definitely move some people to think potentially other things, especially the fact that here in the Northeast, it's becoming very, very competitive to acquire real estate where you're cash flowing or creative.
Yeah. You want me to go first? All right. So there's so many misconceptions. We could go back and forth for like the next hour, but like a lot of people think you have to have like a degree to buy a business, or a lot of people think you have to have a ton of cash to buy a business. People, there's just so many things that people think that aren't right, that literally people think that it takes like years to be able to buy a business. Just really everything people think is not right. People think that every business for sale is bad. People think that if you buy a business, you're going to have to turn it around. I mean, Chris, you can keep going on it, because there's just so many things people ask all the time that like just none of it's true. Like, you know, you just got to find the right people to buy for.
Yeah, I'll tell you where people have their own limiting beliefs that hold them back from doing well in business acquisitions. And that's number one, like, why would someone sell to me? That's number one. Number two, they also try to skip some of the main steps as a part of the process. There's a lot of people that want everyone to work for them for free on contingency fees and do everything, but they're not willing to go out and create the relationships up front. Or they come in and they treat a business acquisition just like a typical real estate transaction, and they skip some of the steps of building like really, really impressive levels of rapport, and they just want to skip right to business. And I think those are two of the biggest things that I see that people stop and fail. Another thing is, maybe not a common misconception, but why reasons people that jump into business acquisitions don't do well is they underestimate the process and the power of building a whole funnel and really originating a lot of opportunities. Imagine, Dennis, for you, if you're in the New England, Northeast area, you're going out to try to find some properties to buy, and you only find 3. What happens when none of them work out? You're going to be disappointed. Same thing in business acquisitions. You got to punch past the target. You need to go originate 25, 30, 40 opportunities and have lots of conversations, understanding 1 to 2 to 3 of them could close, right? So for me, it's number one, people say, well, why would someone sell to me, right? Number two, why would someone sell a business that's cash flowing? That doesn't make any sense. And we'll talk about that. And then number three, hey, I tried that and it didn't work. Well, they didn't put in enough effort and they didn't do it the way that they were taught to do it, right? Does that all make sense, Abraham?
Oh, that's dead on. Yeah.
So when you start with like, why would someone sell a business to me? Well, buying a business, a little different than buying real estate, we want to position ourselves as a safe pair of hands, right? So when you're trying to figure out your buy box in business acquisitions, also known as deal specification, you want to be able to align that with something where someone would feel like you're a safe pair of hands, right? Something that aligns with your experience, your background, things that you've already done well, home runs you've hit, where that's like, wow, this person's going to do really well with my business because it's their baby. It's not. Sometimes people have emotional attachments to houses, but they really have emotional attachments to their business, especially when they built it, right? So just finding the right business owners that feel like you're a safe pair of hands. And that same concept translates to lending as well. Imagine, Dennis, you're a hard money lender. You've got $1 million you're going to go invest somewhere. And I bring a deal to you. And it's like, yeah, I want to buy this medical manufacturing facility. And you look at me like, well, what experience do you have in medical manufacturing? And I said, nothing. Not like, you're not going to feel like I'm a safe pair of hands for your investment. It's the same concept on the investment side as the seller side. So why would someone want to sell a business to you? It's because you're able to really plug in your expertise and your experience in what you do into that business and take it to the next level. Or you have enough credibility and experience not to just piss it away. There's a lot of people buy businesses and then they don't know what to do with them. So and then the second one is, why would someone sell a business that's cash flowing? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the reason why is we go after distressed sellers of good businesses, right? People who have distressed situations, sickness, death, things going on in their life, interruptions in their life and their family, where they need to get out of their businesses, not because it's not doing well. The business isn't distressed, it's the seller or the situation. So that type of thing works really well. Also, think about all these aging baby boomers who need to retire. A lot of times their heirs, their kids, their family doesn't want the business. They're out doing something different, right? They need someone to hand the business off to. Otherwise, they're just going to have to shut it down. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and to even like piggyback on that, as far as why would somebody, sell their profitable business, is I want to put it in perspective for everyone that does real estate to understand. That's like saying, well, how can all you real estate investors be buying all these properties off everybody, and why are they selling it for that price? Like they're selling it for 30% less than what they should be selling it for, 50% less. It's the same thing. They're motivated sellers. There's reasons why they need to sell it. Maybe they don't know a better place to sell it. Maybe, they need to move and they need to do it fast or whatever else. But anyhow, the bottom line is, think about how many real estate deals that you've bought and other people have bought that people sold they shouldn't have sold. Or, again, if you were them, you wouldn't have sold it. But everyone thinks differently and everyone has a different reason. So literally, that's how you buy properties at a good deal. Who are you buying these properties from at a good deal? Motivated sellers. And they're motivated again because they need to move, they need to sell, they're getting divorced. It's the same thing in business. So you find motivated people, you're going to get good deals.
Yeah, I picked up on what Chris said, and I wanted to go a little bit more into that. So just like in real estate, you have to have a pipeline of leads to call. The more pipeline that you can expand and grow of motivated sellers, and we have the 4 pillars: price, motivation, condition, and time. That is basically what constitutes a qualified lead. And the more that you build up, we used to have a metric, I think it was 10,000 calls per one sale, right? And when I talked to as the sub-2 guy, one of the regional leaders here, with a lot of people that are in the group in our local area, they're all, in some extent, have some other obligation, whether it's a business that they are literally the operator, they think they're an owner, but they're an operator, or they have a W-2. So my question for both of you, if somebody's watching this and, they might have one rental and they have a W-2 and they're watching this and they're saying like, can I really do this? I mean, is this going to take a lot of time? And we have to build up a whole VA team to call and build a pipeline. What would you say to those people?
You could go ahead with that one first. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you go first from that one. I'll go second.
Yeah. So on this, I think about, imagine your deal team, right? Imagine you have somebody that you can hire to do this and do that. You have somebody can help raise capital. Somebody can help with the due diligence. Someone's handling the legal matters, right? You can do that and leverage a lot of other people's time instead of yours. But I think a lot of times your first deal, while you're still transitioning into kind of being a full-time investor, you end up joining a deal team of other people and peers, just like you guys are doing in the creative real estate finance game. You create these groups of people where someone else has the skill set, knowledge, background, or resources that you don't. And then you bring everyone's resources to the table and end up being able to create something much more powerful than what you can do yourself. So I think it's the same concept in business acquisitions. I know inside of our programs, we have, I think, 25 to 30 different buyer groups of people who are going out and doing deals together, where they're able to use a lot less of their time that's not getting in the way of their W-2 job, and able to make it kind of a side hustle that can eventually outpace their day-to-day. And I think that's what we're all after anyway, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I literally see everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. And I literally see so many people tag teaming and doing deals together. Maybe one person's calling and negotiating. One person's, going to operate it. Maybe one person's going to bring some of the money. One person's getting a loan. Everyone has different strengths that they can do. Some people are just good, following up and cold calling and going by. So, there's so many different things that people on the team do different. I actually see it all the time because I'm.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like real estate, right? So like, for example, creative, in the Northeast area, when I first joined Sub 2, and this is after being in the business, in and out of real estate since 99, what I found is that in our local area, there was very little of creative deals being done at the time because there just wasn't enough people that understood the model. Title companies weren't really available and stuff like that. Now we take 2 years later and we have a completely different world. We have title companies that we can close creative deals with. We have lenders that are doing DSCR loan, almost going to the Morphy method to some extent. We're having still some challenges with that, by the way. But it's definitely changing. And, as I mentioned, I know this is going to be an interesting video of people to watch because is there local, like, I guess my question is like RIAs that are business focused, because like if I wanted to get involved in real estate, I go to my local RIA in real estate. But if I want to do something with business, I really can only go to the Dealmaker event. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's not like a whole lot of business meetups that, most people don't even know about or know how to do it. But there are, we have like Facebook groups that people could join and, ask questions and learn a lot from the Facebook groups. I mean, we all have our own YouTube channels that we talk about a lot of stuff. My YouTube channel talks about a little bit of everything, but like Carl's YouTube channel, right? Carl Allen is focused primarily just on business. You could pretty much figure out any business question that you want to know. And I'm sure he has a video on that, So YouTube's a good way. But like I said, if you just want to connect with other people, I mean, we have Facebook groups that have, a tremendous amount of people in them that you could communicate with.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was so much value. And everybody that watched that, I mean, they're probably gonna be blown away, like, oh my God, I can now do this besides real estate. Everybody's gonna start running to businesses, and we're gonna be overloaded with people looking for businesses. It's kind of like when it's kind of like, let me just make this point. It's kind of like when multifamily became Sub 2 kind of like radar. I got a call from a broker, and he's like, I've never had so many calls telling me that they want to buy multifamilies. What is going on?
Yep.
I'm like, you should go on YouTube and watch a video called Elephant Challenge for multifamily.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Can I ask you to ask me a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you ask me a question? Pace asked this question to Abraham and I a couple of weeks ago on his podcast on Sunday night. Is can you ask us, should we buy real estate or buy businesses?
Okay. You know what? Let me ask you guys a question. When looking at the two options, whether it's a business profitable or potentially a sub two that will cash flow you, which one should you choose?
Here, give me a second. I'll tell you. You ready for that? Both.
Raise it. You got to raise it.
Raise it up. Raise it up.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Both, guys.
There you go.
I'll tell you, a lot of the most successful deal makers we have in business acquisitions, like looking at Abraham right here on the screen, is they're making big profits from flipping businesses, business profit distributions, and they're investing in real estate. Like they're using one to fuel the other. And I think that's where you really have the best of both worlds. Also, think about as a real estate investor, your skill sets translate so well to buying businesses. You have negotiations. You understand how to raise financing. You understand conceptually how the transactions work. You understand seller psychology. You understand how to find off-market deals. How could you not want to take your skill sets that you're already doing every single day and be able to put the same focus and effort towards buying businesses and getting deals that have stronger ROI, faster break even, higher cash flow from one deal that it could take you 20 deals to do in real estate? Why not add that to your repertoire and add that to your portfolio? So thanks for that's a great question. I think the answer is both. What do you think, Abraham?
I mean, not only is the answer both, like getting good at one, like really helps you get better at the other because there's so many similarities. There's a lot of differences as well, but there's so many similarities that once you like get really, really good at one, like literally you can use the stuff that you know to help you with the other. And again, you know, there's so many good tax benefits with real estate that you're making so much money in business. There's some tax benefits there, but like you buy real estate, now you could tax shelter everything. So there's just so many. That's why all the people that made the most money really made it probably in business. But guess what? They all own so much property. I mean, the reason why is because obviously it diversifies and you have cash flow on the real estate, but the tax write-offs are unbelievable.
Absolutely. Can I say one more thing, Dennis?
Yeah, please. And if there's any other questions you want me to ask you, please let me know.
For sure. I was just playing with you on that one. But so another really interesting thing I want to talk about is, you know, their idea, they got these brokers out there, right? You spoke to a broker and he said, hey, Dennis, all these people are calling me right now. A lot of the people out there in the world, outside of what we do at Dealmaker Weekend and with Carl, they'll teach you to go out and build an AI bot to go find all these businesses for sale, or they'll teach you all the broker sites to look at. We have a strong, heavy focus on off-market deal flow. And I'll tell you why. Because that's the true blue ocean. If you want to get in and learn everything we just taught you about, or come to the weekend event and walk away and just go and decide to dig in and try to find as many broker deals as possible, you're going to have a really hard time. At the end of the day, only one of every 11 deals that go on the market in business on these sites like BizBuySell, Transworld really even sell. The magic is off-market deal flow, just like it is in creative real estate financing. Imagine as a real estate investor, Dennis, you and all your friends only relied on the MLS moving forward. That's all you can do. How well would you do?
I mean, believe it or not, there's still deals to be had on MLS, so I don't want to dog that, but you would have much worse margins, obviously. Because
what percent of deals? Dennis, what percent of deals? What percent of deals would you do? Are you doing, or are your friends doing on the MLS as opposed? What percent is off market? What percent is on market?
At this point, I would say it's about 20% is on market, and the rest is off market.
Same exact way in business. If you look at statistics, even published by BizBuySell last year, 80% of deals done in the US were off market. It's the same concept. So all I want people to know is really what we teach that's so different is really a strong focus on off-market deals. And on off-market deals, it's just an undisputed fact that you can use seller psychology and that type of leverage buyout scenario so much easier with less friction when you're not dealing with the middleman, with the broker, right? just like dealing with real estate agents. I mean, it's got to be difficult sometimes.
In some states, unfortunately, either real estate agents and by the way, my wife is a licensed agent, so I'm about to say something that might get very controversial. But if they don't extend the process of creative, deals get killed. Same thing with attorneys in certain states, right? We have seen that. It's unfortunate, and that does lead to, unfortunately, people actually getting their house taken away because it was a misunderstanding that occurred. I'll leave it at that.
Same
Guys,
thing with
thank you
dealing with I mean, one more point there, Dennis. Sorry. Just like on the MLS, though, a lot of sellers say, hey, let the market sell the house. Why do I want to go creative right now? So even with working with the MLS or like a biz buy sell, your low hanging fruit is still the houses that have the highest days on market because they're more open to creative solutions. Same thing with buying a business. If you're going after a business just listed, they're going to say, why would I take your offer now? I'm waiting for somebody else to come buy it, as well as they've already been primed by their broker that the best case scenario is another business buys their business because they can afford to pay for it. So just some thoughts. But yeah, it's been an honor being on today with you.
Thank you so much, both. So we're going to have a kind of like a quick hour where I'm just going to ask random questions. But before we do that, I want to talk about the Deal Maker event. Chris, Abraham, Pace, Carl, they're all going to come to New York, New Jersey, starting Friday, June 23rd through June 25th. And I told everybody, if you stay to the end, besides just getting this amazing value, I mean, if literally I did not know what I know about business now and I was watching this, I would literally be jumping out of my seat and running to a Deal Maker event. Because I mean, it is that it's not necessarily that it's a conflict, but I think it's a comparable. And just how Chris said about you should be buying both, but as you can all see, there's that transition. And I said I was going to make it worthwhile to stay to the end. We have a special code that is discounted for you to attend this event. So I'm going to post it here, everywhere around this. Click on it and make sure you sign up. And just if you're watching this, you don't have to take a flight. And a lot of times in our area, there's not much events going on like this. You have to take a flight. So that's why I tell everybody this is local. And besides just what's going to be taught there, you guys are going and doing things at the end of the night. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So every single night we go out. So the event comes with like breakfast, snacks all day, lunch, and all kinds of other goodies. But at night we go out to dinner and we go to different events and we go network for a few hours. So the first night, I actually own a lot of businesses in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York. And so we're going to go to one of my businesses in New Jersey. That's not that far. And we're going to just go have fun. It's an axe throwing location. So we're going to throw axes. We're going to have plenty of food and all kinds of stuff. And literally that's where people get together and do deals together. That's, you're going to learn everything you need to learn in the 3 days. But, connecting with people, that there's people that literally come to every event for the last few years just because of the networking and how many deals they've done with people by talking and figuring out how everyone can help each other. So it's a very important part of the event. And then the next night we're going to go again, go out to dinner. We're going to take everybody out. We're going to, I think Dave & Buster's the second night. We're going to have food there, and then we're going to play games, network's the most important thing. And then the third night we have like a VIP night where, anyone that's in our VIP sign up is going to go out to a private dinner with Pace and Carl and Chris and me. And we're just going to, get to know everyone really well and hopefully do deals with people. I mean, one of my main things when I come, I want to teach everybody how to do everything. I want everyone to do good. I want to do deals with people. Like I have so many partners now from previous events. It's awesome.
Can I touch on the event a little bit as well, Dennis?
Please.
Yeah. So let me give you 3 reasons why I think you should really strongly consider coming to this event. So number 1, you get to add a new tool in your tool belt. You have a new perspective on what's possible and how you can translate your skills that you already have and your experience you already have in real estate investing over towards diversifying your portfolio and adding more cash flowing assets to your portfolio. That's number one. Number two, your next business partners are sitting in this room. At the event, you can look to your left, look to your right, and there are people in the room looking to network, looking to either bring opportunities to someone else to partner with, or would like to put capital in different deals that you can find. Your next partner is sitting there in that room, and it may just be Abraham. It may be Abraham. Go right up to him and bring him your deals. I mean, that's how you really are able to take it to the next level, is expanding your perspective, your tools in your tool belt, and also your network, which we all know that network is your net worth. And then number three is there's a certain level of momentum that comes from being at live events. And I think, Dennis, you'd probably agree, and Abraham, that since COVID is kind of more in our rear view mirror, we're starting to appreciate live events more and more, because we had it taken away from us from a certain period of time. And I think probably took it for granted, but it's almost impossible to dispute how much momentum that can come from reinvigorating your mindset and getting around other people who think like-minded, people who are going after big things. Because at home, Dennis, I don't know about for you, but sometimes in our own homes, people don't quite understand our ambitions. They don't quite understand that we're maybe different and that we're looking for bigger things in life that's maybe not down the traditional path that society has taught us as we're growing up. So being able to get in this room with other people like this is going to create some pretty amazing momentum in your life. Weekly after week, we see people who are at our last event holding up those tombstone trophies, signing documents, buying businesses, and even more real estate deals from partnerships that they have kindled and created from the last event, as well as just having newfound perspective and guidance and vision. So I just want to say, if you have any interest at all in coming to the event, of course, I'll be on stage quite a bit. Abraham has more knowledge than you could possibly absorb in 3 days, but he'll give you everything he's got. I give you everything I've got, and as well as Pace and Carl. So I'd be honored to have you there.
You guys gave you all today. I really appreciate you coming on. Once again, it's going to be June 23rd to June 25th. It's at the Marriott Newark Airport, right across the street from Newark International Airport. Like I said, I'm going to post the link, but it's dealmakerevent.com/Dennis. Definitely click on that link, and you will not be disappointed. Make sure you schedule time to attend. It will be a life-changing event. Gentlemen, once again, 3 questions I'm going to ask you, and then we're gonna run. First question: if you could have dinner with any historical figure, alive or not alive, who would it be and why?
Who's going? You're going?
Why don't you go first on that? I have to think for a second.
Okay, so any historical person, dead or alive, who would it be? I would probably say, just someone that's like super successful that, I look up to because they've done so much. So Elon Musk is one person that comes to mind, that he's done so many cool things, and his brain thinks so creatively that I think it would just be cool to go out to dinner with him and kind of, learn how his brain thinks and figure out if I could get some of that to rub off on me, because he just comes up with one thing after another that's cool as crap. And, that's somebody that I look up to.
For me, I think it'd be Rockefeller. They figured out a way to make generational wealth. And if I could just get one sliver of what was in his brain and how he set up his entire world to continue to thrive even after he's gone, I think that would be pretty impactful.
If you could visit one place in the world that you have not been yet, where would that be?
I can go first on that one. I would go just sit down on a beach in Maui and just not move for a month. That'd be my answer. Yeah. Just relax.
Yeah. I would say that there's not one particular place that I would go to, but going to a good beach, like Chris said, you can't go wrong. So I would probably, want to ask my wife, where would she want to go that we haven't been, and kind of use that and go with her, because she probably cares more about a place than me, but I could have fun anywhere. So I would let her decide, and we would just go.
You're an enlightened man. letting your wife choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could possess any talent or skills that you don't currently possess, what would it be, and how would you use it in your daily life?
So I'm not really great with technology. I always have everyone that does all that stuff. So anything with technology. I mean, if I understood how to program and how to do technology and how to do all that, I think and use AI and create all that stuff, I think I can get a lot further. Doing stuff that I haven't done. I'm pretty good at stuff that's not technology like some, but I just see that the people that are really good at that stuff, they're missing like something else. Like people that are really good at that aren't as entrepreneurial sometimes, or don't have like what I have. So if I could have that with what I have now, I think that the sky would be even more the limit, and I could get a lot faster, further, faster.
For me, it would be probably something like algorithmic day trading, where I could set up a computer one time that can go out and trade for me so I can make money all day, all night, and be able to just do whatever I want for the rest of my life, which we're getting close anyway on that goal, but I think that would be cool.
Thank you both once again so much for coming on. This is Dennis Rogov with Real Estate Investors Roundtable. Thank you once again. Signing off.
See you guys.
See ya.